Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining from today. My name is Cindy Haight, and I'm very happy to be here. This is our first QMS webinar for 2025. The topic we're covering today is nonconformances, the hidden gold mine of improvement. And we're going to take it from pain point to profit center. We have Sabrina Ippolito. She's my partner in crime and our subject matter expert. So she's here to help guide us through this content today. And just a little bit about us. That's me on the right. I've been with the SGS for just over 3 years now, but I have worked in the industry since 2001. So as you know, I must be old, but it's a great industry. I help companies get through certification. We offer training through SGS Academy, and we have a whole bunch of other services that I'll get to in just a few minutes. And there's Ms. Sabrina Ippolito. Sabrina is a classically trained biochemist. She's a certified lead auditor. She helps organizations maintain compliance in a realm of different industries and certifications and standards, spanning pharmaceutical, cosmetics, and general manufacturing. She's directed, overseen, and improved several quality systems to reduce deficiencies and increase product flow across the US and Canada. And she's affiliated with the Chemists of Quebec as well as American Society for Quality. I just want to tell you a little bit about SGS before we dive into our content today. You can see that we have been around for nearly 150 years at this point. We're looking forward to a big party in 28. We are the global leader in the testing, inspection, and certification or verification industries. We have nearly 100,000 employees, over 2,600 offices and labs spread across 117 countries. So we definitely have a large footprint around the globe and offer our services in several different areas. You can see SGS difference, right? So we, as I mentioned, we have the large global network, offices all over that can support everything from certification and training through global supply chain services. So if you have any questions about what we do, you can post them in the Q&A area. We do hold ourselves to a very high quality level of service. So we come and audit you guys, we audit your quality systems, and we hold ourselves accountable to that same high level of quality. We have industry experience across a variety of industries. We work with manufacturing companies, shipping companies, medical device manufacturers, food safety companies, or food manufacturers. We have experience across many, many industries. SGS we pride ourselves on being on the forefront of digital innovation with the use of digital technologies to create new products and services and to improve our business processes and enhance our customers' overall experience. SGS also has a very strong commitment to our through our corporate sustainability, and you can read about our reports for our sustainability commitment through our website. Sabrina and I work for the Business Assurance Division here at SGS, and there's a little summary of some of the services that we offer. Obviously, we offer assessment, auditing, and certification services. We have training available through SGS Academy, and we'll touch on that toward the end of the session today. We have supply chain assurance products in with Seymour, which is a software system that helps you to determine risk management that's out there in your supply chain. We also offer supply chain assessment services. We offer a full range of sustainability assurance services, consulting through MainPoint SGS, as well as medical device regulatory compliance. So any questions about that, please let us know. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sabrina at this point. I do want to mention we will be sending you a link after the session so you can rewatch the webinar at any time. We do have poll questions coming up throughout the session. So please, you can click right on your screen to share your answers, and we look forward to your participation. Okay, Sabrina, I'll stop talking now. Thank you guys.
Cindy,
Enjoy the session.
amazing. Hi, everyone. And a special thank you to you, Cindy, and to SGS for hosting this learning event and providing me with this platform. I'm truly excited to be here today and to discuss a topic that's near and dear to my heart, nonconformances, says the auditor, right? Now, I know that word can sometimes trigger a bit of a collective groan, but I'm here to tell you that we're going to shift that perspective, or at least we're going to try to. We're going to explore how, contrary to the negative stigma they often carry, nonconformances are actually incredibly valuable opportunities for improvement. So I'm excited to dive in and share how we can transform these moments into catalysts for positive change. So today I have for you a couple of neat little things that we're going to look at. We're going to rethink nonconformances and what they are. We're going to look at a slide where we're looking at nonconformances and corrective actions. I'm not going to go too much into this one. If some of you have already joined this webinar once upon a time ago, this might be a slide that you've seen already, but this is also something I cover in more detail when I'm looking at and doing a deeper dive in corrective actions. Additionally, we're going to look at defining nonconformances and their classifications, the true cost and power of nonconformances, data analysis, so looking at trends, finding patterns, and what it means to actually use those nonconformances in a more proactive manner. We're going to look at some practical tools and strategies, how we document nonconformances, some key aspects of nonconformance reports, and we're going to end off with a case study and some final thoughts. So let's rethink nonconformances. So what if nonconformances were opportunities, not failures? What would this mean for you? What would it mean for your organization? So we want to own in on some core concepts. There would be a mindset shift, right? So instead of viewing deviations from standards or negative events, let's say, they're actually seen as valuable sources of information. This would foster a culture of learning and continuous improvement. Let's say a focus on root cause analysis, for instance. The emphasis here shifts from simply fixing the immediate problem, so the surface level problem, to understanding why it occurred in the first place. So this will allow for the implementation of preventative measures, for instance. Continuous improvement. So nonconformances now become a key driver for identifying areas where processes, products, or services can actually be enhanced. So the industries that are impacted, and you'll notice over here, there's a variety of industries going from manufacturing right into aerospace, right into healthcare. So from a manufacturing perspective, in manufacturing, a non-conforming product can reveal flaws in the production process and equipment or materials. Analyzing the non-conformances are going to lead to improved efficiencies. They will ultimately help you reduce waste. They will help you enhance product quality. So therefore, implementing systems like a management system, a quality management system, will help the tracking and analysis of these nonconformances. If we shift our focus to healthcare, for instance, in healthcare, nonconformances can involve deviations from, let's say, patient safety protocols or medication errors. So viewing these as opportunities allows for improved patient safety, enhancing staff training, refinement of clinical procedures. So therefore, if we adhere to standards like, as an example, ISO 13485 for medical devices or FDA Health Canada regulations, this requires robust non-conformance management. If we shift our focus, let's say, to software development. In software development, bugs, defects, these are usually typically categorized as nonconformances. So if we treat them as opportunities, this will enable us to improve our code quality, enhance testing processes, better understanding of user needs, for instance, something we sometimes lack. Agile methodologies are generally built around the concept of iterative improvements, which includes learning from failures or from those nonconformances, because essentially that's what nonconformances are. They're failures or deviations. If we're considering the aerospace industry, so in the aerospace industry, nonconformances can have very serious consequences. I mean, we don't have to think very, very far. Just think about the Boeing 737, the MAX 8s, for instance. Therefore, this industry has extremely strict guidelines because of the complexity, because of the impact that those nonconformances can have. So nonconformances are used to improve designs, improve manufacturing processes, increase safety, and therefore standards like AS 9100 emphasize this rigor in nonconformance management. If we consider the food industry, in the food industry, nonconformances can include things like contamination, incorrect labeling, or deviations from temperature controls, obviously and ultimately leading to recalls. So these nonconformances are used to improve food safety, to improve sanitation, to ensure regulatory compliance. And regulations like those from FDA, from FSMA, they require strict adherence to quality control and to nonconformance management. So you see, it really depends on the perspective, right? You can look at a nonconformance in terms of, oh my goodness, and everybody's in sheer panic, which I can understand depending on the context you might be. But when we look at it as it's a potential to improve something, it also starts changing the culture within the organization and how we treat those nonconformances. Good. So benefits and vision. So some key benefits is that we'll have an increased efficiency and productivity. Hopefully it's going to help us in reducing costs. It's definitely going to improve product and service quality. It's going to enhance customer satisfaction. And a culture of continuous improvement and innovation gets stirred up. So what I often like to say is we want to create and sustain a workplace where quality is a deeply ingrained habit and not a blame game nor finger-pointing contest. When we embrace nonconformances as opportunities, organizations begin to unlock valuable insights and they start to drive meaningful progress within the organization. So this takes us to our very first poll question. So true or false, nonconformances and corrective actions are the same? That's right. Good. 98.4% of you said that false. They're not the same. That's correct. They're not the same. They're generally not treated the same also. Good. Very nice. So this is a slide that if you've taken one of my learning events in the past, this might be a slide that looks a little bit familiar to you. I don't want to spend too much time on here, but basically where we typically tend to see nonconformances is in areas like in receiving. So if you have a receiving bay, in areas like production, so you might be producing or servicing. So therefore you'll find nonconformances in kitting and compounding and manufacturing, inspection and testing, shipping, customer complaints that obviously relate to quality. A corrective action, however, is a little bit more particular. You might open up a corrective action whenever you have an audit during an audit. So let's say nonconformances were raised as a result of an audit. And that audit could be an internal audit, a customer audit, a regulatory audit, a certification-based audit. Any customer complaint that comes in where your customer tells you, I don't want you just opening up a nonconformance, this needs to be investigated. So the fact that you need to do an investigation results in you opening up a car. Any type of risk, legislative changes, however, this can also be addressed through a management of change. Ineffective nonconformances. So if you are just trending nonconformances or noting down nonconformances, and all of a sudden you start seeing a trend, you may say, hey, you know what? We need to open up a corrective action. And generally speaking, the reason why people tend to open up the corrective action is not only because it falls, let's say, in one of this non-exhaustive category, but it's because there's an investigation that is mandated. So in a corrective action, you must do an investigation of the nonconformance of what occurred. In a nonconformance, you do not have to. It is not a requirement. It is not a must that you do an investigation. But some of you might say, you know what? I still want to do an investigation because of the type of impacts that nonconformances can have on my organization. And so therefore, you might decide, contrary to what I am expected to do, it's still beneficial for us to actually nip the problem early on rather than wait until it snowballs into a catastrophe potentially. Okay. So I want you to think about a negative situation that might have occurred within the context of your company. So I want you to think about this. Did you have an easy time identifying if you should be initiating a nonconformance report or a corrective action report? Was that an easy task for you to determine? Oh, yes, I know it's a nonconformance, or yes, I know it's a corrective action, or I'm not sure, but hey, let's open one of them. Some of you might actually have one system that combines nonconformances with corrective actions. And I'm starting to see a trend in industry, and people are starting to do that as well. Okay, good. So yes, I can do this in my sleep. No, they both sound the same to me. I can see why that might be in some cases. There's no need to figure this out as we developed one system that combines both. And I love that. So that is one way, if you're looking to streamline your processes, that is one way of doing it, is taking your corrective actions and your nonconformances and just creating that one form. So you're treating everything one and the same, or you're giving direction through a work instruction, let's say, on how the form gets completed, in what situations you're supposed to fill in maybe some sections versus other sections. We've had all of this talk on nonconformances, and we didn't even define nonconformances. So what is a nonconformity? A nonconformity is a non-fulfillment of a norm, of a requirement, of a regulation, an expectation, could even be a customer contract. So other terms that are generally used, and some terms that you might have heard of, are derogation, an unplanned deviation. The reason I put unplanned over there is because in some cases you may have a planned deviation, which allowed you to plan for it, allowed you to consider the risks and how to navigate the context of that deviation. And discrepancy. So this I thought would be nice to just discuss a little bit in terms of my world and how we classify major versus minor nonconformities. Some organizations, while they just say, well, we're only obligated to put conforming or non-conforming, that's fine. But just so you know how we classify majors versus minor, a major nonconformance is in fact a systemic breakdown of the management system. This is a shall that you see, let's say, in a requirement, in a standard, for instance, that's not being implemented. So for instance, every organization shall conduct an internal audit. So if you did not do an internal audit that year, you will inherit a nice major nonconformance from your auditor. A number of small minors indicating a larger systemic problem will result in a major nonconformance. And also major nonconformances are generally related to higher risk. Anything that's a minor is usually an isolated incident. This does not indicate a breakdown of the system. So when you look at the situation holistically and you consider all things, you realize that it's probably just a one-off, and it's not indicating that it's that the entire system is in fact breaking down. So essentially, once we clearly identify the nonconformity, then we can start focusing on determining what is the root cause and the contributing factors, which will allow us to determine what are the steps, the necessary steps, in order for us to put in place corrective actions. So some examples of sources of requirements. So our requirements can come from anything that is regulatory, statutory, legislative requirements, Health Canada, FDA, your bureau when it comes to wastewater, any codes of practice. And specifically, when we're talking about regulatory, we don't even use the word conformance or nonconformance. We use the words compliance and noncompliance. Any system standard. So we can also find requirements in system standards like 9001, 14001, 45001, ISO 22716, WHO GDP, and the list goes on and on. From a customer perspective, if we look at our customer contracts, if we are supposed to adhere to certain requirements of our customer, could be, for instance, I want you to do a line check on the content or the weight fill of my bottles every 45 minutes. And you're doing it once per shift, that would likely result in a non-conformance. Then you have everything on an internal perspective. So organizational management manuals, your process, your SOPs, your procedures, your work instructions, any specs. So why do these non-conformances occur? Well, some of the common causes that we typically see can be due to human error, system failures, or in some cases, lack of training. But we don't like to just pinpoint it on the human side. Like, we have to look at it from the perspective of they are system failures. So what is it? So why did that human error occur? Why was there a lack of training? What actually occurred that resulted in the lack of training? So this allows us to shift our ways, let's say, in organization, going from very traditional ways of addressing nonconformances to a more modern view. So this shifts the culture in a company from blame to learning, which is what we're trying to promote. So here's another poll question for you guys. So think about your previous certification external audits or any other type of audit that was external. How many nonconformances would you say your organization receives on average? So we are currently not certified or licensed to any management system. I gave ISO 9001 as an example, but it could be any other one that you might have. So do you typically get none, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, or more than 4?
Hey Sabrina, this is Cindy. I just wanted to share a comment that one of our attendees shared to me, which is, while our system combines nonconformances and CARs as an NC/CAPA record, the issue is not one of understanding, but one of culture and an aversion to the creation of an NC. And that makes a lot of sense. That's a culture thing, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's one thing. Like, we're also seeing in industry, it's people are happy to raise them, but then it's the culture that surrounds it, right? It's like, oh no, you can raise nonconformances. We're supposed to be perfect, and it's the way that it's basically a stigma, right? So this is why. And I was thinking about it. I said, you know what? It makes sense for me to just devote one learning event to nonconformances, because I'm really trying hard to break that stigma. Like, we can look at them from the perspective of improvement opportunities. And once we start changing, and because the root of the problem is okay, we need to ask ourselves the question, why is it that people are afraid to raise nonconformances? Most people, most workers, they care about having their paycheck, and they're like, well, if I keep raising nonconformances, people are going to say I'm, just a troublemaker, and they'll find a way of not giving me a raise, or like, there's all of that negative stuff that goes around it.
Yep, it's an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. I look at nonconformances of, if you want me to help you and you want me to help solve your problems, I don't know where to start unless I know that there's a problem that needs my attention, but that needs to be documented and we need to discuss it. I'm happy to support. I'm happy to pick your brain. You're subject matter experts. We're both professionals in our own way. Let's see what's occurred and let's see what we can put in place. And that might even require myself to go back to the drawing board and think about it and then reconvene with the individual and say, okay, so this is the situation, give them the context of what I found, and then we find a middle ground. Like, that's really what nonconformances are about. And as an auditor, when we see this in an organization, you've got, let's say, 80, 90, 200, 300 nonconformances, you know, like that might be like, oh my goodness, you might have a lot. But when you see that people are proactively working at it and you are just getting better overall as an organization, because remember, you can have 300 nonconformances, but this is spread over 30 sites. So it also depends on how we showcase that information. It's all based on perspective. Let's see what you guys are answering to this. Okay. Okay, generally between 1 and 2. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. 3 and 4. Okay, some of you more than 4. All right, good. Well, you know what? For those ones that have answered that yes, you are getting nonconformances, I'm really hoping by the end of this learning event, you're going to look at nonconformances from a completely different lens. And I've got some little tricks and tips for you, so do take notes, okay? Good. I like where this is going. Love it. So this is one of my favorite slides, and particularly because it has a picture, an iceberg. When you look at an iceberg, you just see what's at the surface. It's the same thing with true nonconformances, like with the actual nonconformances. When we look at nonconformances, we're thinking of what is the cost of that nonconformance. But what you are probably, and I'm not saying it's for all of you that you're only considering this, but what we typically tend to document and to quantify is the cost related to rework and scrap, the cost related to warranty claims and returns, the cost related to the finances, the financial impact. There are also indirect costs. You've got customer dissatisfaction in there that can't always be quantified. You've got loss of reputation, and you've got decreased productivity. The decreased productivity, depending on how you are set up as a company, that can be quantified like it cannot be quantified. So I want you to think about this. The cost of poor quality can range anywhere between 15 and 20% of total costs. The hidden costs, this can be up to 4 times the visible costs. Are those numbers always exact? No. But those hidden costs are generally more. When we look at it holistically, collectively, we take an average, these are about the numbers that we're seeing. So I want you to think about this as we're going through this learning event, okay? So let's look at the hidden gold mine. So now we're going to turn pain points into profits, right? So if we're looking at the power of effective management, so we've got process improvement. So here we're looking at root cause analysis that can lead to streamlined processes. You've got increased efficiencies and reduced errors when you are improving your processes. And remember, you have to ask yourselves always, who's the one who's going to be using this process? So when you are creating the documentation, it has to be for that audience. If you're wanting to write a dissertation and make procedures 30, 40, 50, 80 pages long, even at 16 pages long, if you really want to do a dissertation, I invite you to go back to higher education, do maybe a master's or a PhD, and write as much as you want. You have to be strategic. Who is using the documentation? Make sure the language fits the people that's using the documentation. The flow needs to fit the individuals that are using the documentation. If you're working in production, you don't want to be reading words necessarily or reading pages upon pages upon pages. It might make sense for someone in production to use a flow chart. So think about your audience. Cost reductions, decreased rework, waste, warranty claims, quantify the financial savings achieved through effective management. And then you've got enhanced customer satisfaction. So let's look at the graph that I have over here in customer complaints. You might have, this is all about trend analysis, right? So you might say, well, in 2023, these were all my customer complaints. This is my broken line graph. That's in red. And this is what we have. In 2024, you have significantly less. So when you're looking at this, there's two ways of looking at it. You can say it's like, oh my God, we've done amazing. Or you can look at this and say, well, why do we have less? What were sales like last year? Did we have pretty much the same sales? Did we have more sales, or did we have significantly less sales? Because if you've had significantly less sales, then this might not be giving you necessarily the information that you're looking for. But if you've had comparative sales between 2023 and 2024, or the number of lines that were shipped out between 2023 and 2024 were roughly the same, or you've had more lines shipped out in 2024 than in 2023, and you've got this graph, then this is telling you, your health check is telling you that you are doing exceptionally well. Is it perfect? No. Is there room for improvement? Yes. But it's far better than where you were in 2023. All righty. So we've got some data analysis. So we want to be able to find patterns. And that's what I love about nonconformances, is that organizations that actually use nonconformances the way that they're meant for them to be used, you can start looking for patterns. So to achieve sustained organizational improvement, a proactive, data-driven approach is essential. Think about ISO 9001 for a second. In ISO 9001, it's risk-based thinking, amongst other things, but we have to do risk-based thinking. Whereas when we're looking at finding patterns, you're looking at it from a proactive perspective that's data-driven. So this involves a systematic process of identifying, analyzing, and visualizing critical performance indicators, your KPIs even. So you want to identify what is important to you, to your organization. What should you measure to ensure you're on a successful path in order to achieve your goal? So yes, you do want to define your key performance indicators, your KPIs. So you want to begin by establishing clear, measurable, quantifiable objectives that are aligned with the organization's vision, but also strategic goals. You want to conduct comprehensive non-conformance data analysis. So this can be used to predict potential issues and prevent them from occurring. So you want to implement a robust system for collecting and analyzing your non-conforming data. Ensure data accuracy and consistency to facilitate meaningful insight. Use your statistical techniques to identify patterns, to identify trends, to identify potential root causes. Develop impactful data visualization. So you can use a frequency bar chart. You can use a broken line graph like what we saw earlier with the customer complaints, trend line graphs. You can use a Pareto chart. You can use whatever visualization, whatever visual you want to use to be able to get your message across. So ensuring that all visualizations tell a clear and coherent story, facilitating informed decision-making and driving targeted improvement initiatives. That's your goal. That's what you're trying to ensure. You are taking the information, you're analyzing. In the back of your mind, you're saying, what is it that I want to give as information so that the decision makers are in a position that they're well placed to make that decision, to make a well-informed decision based on the context, based on the situation. We've got some practical tools and strategies as well. So tools for transforming our nonconformances, for instance. You might decide to do a root cause analysis. Now, like I said, not all nonconformances, some organizations will say, well, you know what, when we do our nonconformances, we don't necessarily do a root cause analysis because it's not necessarily required, but we will do that, let's say, when it's a corrective action. That's fine. But if you are of the mindset of, but I want to know why that nonconformance is happening, or we received one nonconformance and that is critical enough that I have to do an investigation. So we encourage people to utilize techniques like the 5 whys, fishbone diagram. And there is a plethora of them. I'm not going to go too much on RCA, on root cause analysis, because just in root cause analysis, we have a webinar that's targeted specifically only for this. But also SGS has a wonderful, wonderful training session, learning event, I should say, on root cause analysis. And you learn all sorts of techniques. You get to learn all sorts of techniques using certain workshops. So if any of you are interested on doing more of a deep dive or unpacking that a little bit more, I really highly recommend that you reach out to Cindy. We can use our corrective and our preventative actions. I understand full well that in this learning event that there's people coming from different walks, that you're still using CAPAs. Some of you are using different standards that still reference CAPA and not necessarily 9001, that it's corrective action risk management, CARM, like I like to call it. So implementing effective solutions and processes, therefore you need to get people involved. It's not just one individual. The more people you have, the different perspectives you get, and the better you'll be at identifying the potential root cause. Document and track. Emphasize the importance of recording and monitoring those nonconformances. Remember, someone who's looking at nonconformances, if you want me to be able to fix something, I need to know that there's a problem. And if I know that there's a problem, then I can start working towards fixing it. If it's not documented, I'm thinking everything's okay. And this is specifically true for really big organizations. So do get in the good habit of documenting it. Training and communication. You want to build a culture of quality. Therefore, how are you going to do that? You're going to emphasize the importance of ongoing improvement. Continue that. Emphasize that. So, just for fun, what root cause analysis RCA method do you or your organization utilize when conducting an investigation of an undesirable event like a nonconformance? You can choose more than one. I'm just curious to see what you are looking at here or what you typically use. All right, let's see what you guys got here. So many of you use 5 whys, many of you use fishbone. FMEA is good. I know FMEA is usually popular amongst the engineers. Change analysis. Okay, I got some of the other ones. That's interesting. I like this. So this is actually, it aligns with what we do see in industry. Most organizations enforce the 5 whys. I love it because I always say, think about your toddler. I know my daughter, who's going to be turning 5 in just a few months. She is so great at using 5 whys. Every time I ask her to do something, whether it's brushing her teeth or getting ready for bed, it's always followed with a why. And when I answer that question, sure enough, there's another why. The fishbone diagram is a method that I really love and appreciate because it does help pull in people, and it develops and instills and fosters the culture on community, and how the management system, any management system that you have within your organization, is not driven by a person or by a department, but it's driven by subject matter experts, by people that all depending on the context of the situation. You're bringing in those SMEs, those subject matter experts, to help determine, to brainstorm, to put together a plan in addressing those nonconformances. So these are all fabulous. This is fantastic. Keep doing the great work. So leveraging nonconformances, the action plan. So first and foremost, it's important to identify what the root cause are. Root cause or causes can be. But again, it's the potential root cause, because you might identify a root cause and put an action plan in place, and then determine sometime after that the action plan you put in place didn't really fix the problem. Okay, well, go back to the drawing board. And when you're showing this to auditors, or when you're showing this to people that are auditing your organization, or even within the organization, you're showing that the culture here is really to improve. You are developing and fostering a culture of improvement. Based off of what? Based off of the undesirable events that keep coming up. We understand, I'm telling you, as an auditor, I'm not expecting you to get it right the first time. As an auditor, I want to see what is the culture around nonconformances. Are you just sweeping things under the rug, to which we can catch that really quickly? Or do you have a culture where, yeah, we've got our nonconformances or corrective actions. When we're investigating, we use these different tools, the different methods. We don't tell people to use one method over another. We leave it to them for them to decide. Not everybody's comfortable using the same tools. If it works, great. If it doesn't matter. We go back to the drawing board. Why? It's because improvements is fully ingrained within the organization. Then we've got implementing the corrective actions. So here you want to get the right people involved. This is not a solo exercise. The goal is to provide a clear record of the problem and its solution. You want to facilitate analysis and understand what is the potential root cause or causes. Ensure consistency in addressing similar issues. You want to support training and knowledge sharing. And by training, I'm not talking about read and understand. I'm talking about the one-on-one or the group training. Demonstrate accountability and aid in audits and in reviews. So how do I document a nonconformity? It's important to have a nonconformity statement. So you want to state the finding in relation to the management system. Then you want to look at the evidence. So state the evidence that supports the finding. Is it something you observed? Is it something that should have been documented that wasn't documented? So what's the evidence that is supporting that nonconformity? Then you want to go back and say, well, I found the evidence and I have a nonconforming statement. What does my handbook tell me? So what is it, or something that you saw in a work instruction? Maybe it's something in a contract. Maybe it's something in a regulatory requirement. Maybe something in a procedure that you can pinpoint and say, exactly here, we're supposed to do this, but we did that instead. So that's your reference. The next couple of slides, like I said, I'm not going to go too much into this, but whatever is in black font is mandatory for a nonconformance. Black and gray is mandatory for a corrective action. If you find that some of the gray aspects could help you in addressing the nonconformance, then you add them in. So every report typically has a header information where you have the report number, a date, who it was reported by, the location, especially if you're a multi-site organization. Then you'll have the description of the nonconformance. So what is your nonconformity description? Reference documents. You might want to reference a standard, a specification, a target. Some companies see a positive in putting an impact assessment or risk management in a nonconformance. Is it obligatory? No. Could you use it? Absolutely. Same thing with root cause analysis. You might have, for instance, something that's incoming in shipping that you would typically only raise a nonconformance, but this is from a critical shipper, which will have a direct impact not only on your scheduling and planning for production, but will also have a direct impact to your client. So in this particular case, you might say, well, the damage or the issue at hand, even if it's a 1, is significant enough where I do need to do a root cause analysis. I do need to investigate this further. Corrective actions. What's the plan that you're putting in place? A verification and validation. So this usually takes a period of time after you've implemented your action plan. A period of time will elapse, and then you will evaluate the effectiveness of that plan that you put in place. And if you find that it's effective, then great. The root cause, your root cause analysis proved to be efficient and effective. But if the answer is no, don't worry about it. Go back to the drawing board and start it up again. If you find that it did not address the situation, that's okay. What are you going to do about it? You go back to the drawing board. It wasn't this. Maybe it was something else. Maybe your fishbone diagram, you targeted one thing. Maybe now it's time for you to target something else in that fishbone diagram. Create an action plan based on the other potential root cause and see if that will have a positive effect. Then you've got your disposition of your non-conforming items. So this is a decision on what you'll do with the non-conforming item. Approval and signatures. Closures are found in both documents. Attachments, because generally speaking, when it comes to corrective actions, you've got a lot more details, a lot more information, a lot more investigation, a lot more of everything. You might have additional supporting documents as attachments, and these are typically found with corrective actions. Does it mean you can't have this for a non-conformance report? Absolutely you can. For sure you can. I like to say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So if there's pictures you want to include, go for it. Essentially, these components, they ensure that nonconformances are properly documented, that they're properly investigated and addressed to prevent any recurrence and to improve the overall quality and compliance within an organization. As an auditor, I want to make sure that you are treating this seriously. As an auditor, I want to make sure that you are giving any undesirable events that keep coming up the time of day where you're actually taking the time to investigate them. And it could very well be not you specifically, but it could be a team. How you do that, that's based on your creativity. So let's put this all together, shall we? So we've got a case study. This is actually kind of interesting because the daycare that my daughter frequents is kind of going through something similar like this right now. So we've got a non-conformance situation. The scenario is based on a data breach. So we have a company experiences a data breach where unauthorized individuals gain access to a database containing sensitive customer information. In this case, it would be children's information, but in this particular case, it's customers. So here we've got credit card numbers that could be compromised, personal addresses, social security numbers if you're in the US. If I have any Canadian friends over here, we've got social insurance numbers. We know how important those numbers are. So that's the context, that's your scenario. So non-conformance, so some of the key KPIs, your key performance indicators for cybersecurity, as it relates to this particular context, you might want to look at those metrics. You might want to ask, well, how much time does it take to detect the intrusion? So how quickly the system detects the unauthorized access? The time to contain the breach? How long it takes to isolate the compromised system? Number of affected customer records, the scope of the data breach, how much data did they get, the frequency of vulnerability scans. So how often the company checks for security weaknesses. Some companies might say, well, we never do. Well, in that case, you might want to start. Employee compliance with security training. So what is the percentage of employees who have completely completed the required cybersecurity training? And are they adhering to security policies? The number of failed login attempts. So this would all be part of your investigation to addressing what? To addressing this situation, to addressing this scenario. So we've got some types of nonconformance as a result of this context. We have field intrusion detection system alerts. We can have a lack of multi-factor authentication implementation, outdated software vulnerabilities. These are some of the nonconformances. We can have employee negligence. They're just clicking on anything, phishing attacks, inadequate data encryption, and insufficient access controls. So these are the type of issues that we can say, well, as a result of the investigation that I'm pulling, we need to consider these things, look to see if we have anything in place. And if we don't, address those gaps. So our analysis, we want to analyze logs to determine the point of entry, the duration of the breach, and the data assessed. Identify recurring vulnerabilities and security gaps. Investigate employee behavior to determine if social engineering or internal threats were factors. And you can showcase this through different visualizations. It depends on what exactly it is that you're trying, the information that you want your decision makers to make. So when it comes to data visualizations, you can choose bar charts, line graphs, broken line graphs. You might want to trend the intrusion detection alerts over time. You could use Pareto charts. You can use pie charts. Again, it depends on the information that you're trying to put together. So someone has now that information that they can base what the next steps will look like or be. So in terms of the outcome, so what are we hoping to get to? What's the conclusion? Like, what's the goal here? So by analyzing this data, the company can identify the root cause of the breach, can implement stronger security measures as a result, can improve employee training, maybe, can reduce the risks of future incidents, hopefully, and can demonstrate to customers and regulators that they are taking cybersecurity seriously. Why? Because it's documented, because the plans that you will have put in place will be documented. Yes, we're taking it seriously. Yes, we went to the drawing board. Yes, we identified what potential root causes are. As a result, we have these action plans in place. They have been addressed to these individuals. As they're being done, we're doing our follow-ups, and on a monthly basis, we're identifying where we're at, what's outstanding, and what is left to be covered. So I thought about doing something fun. So based on the case study that you've just witnessed or that you've just seen, okay, the investigation tools that could be utilized during root cause analysis, and the many other nuggets of information that we shared with you today, how would you rate your outlook regarding nonconformances now? I'm curious. So this makes so much more sense now. I see the benefits and can use the nonconformances as a proactive approach, working towards organizational improvements. While I do see a benefit, this will take convincing management to consider this perspective. We work in a fast-paced organization. While we record nonconformances, we don't really do much with them other than just addressing the issue at hand. Let's see what you guys are responding. Give you a couple more seconds here. Nice. I was hoping that. That's brilliant. Good, 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 good. I'm happy to see this. Good. So again, when you're looking at nonconformances, do look at them, please, with a critical eye, but keep reminding people. And remember, what you're trying to steer over here is not a raft. It's not like a little sailboat. You're trying to steer a mammoth of a cruise liner, right? Change takes time. Everybody wants change, but nobody wants to change sometimes. So just bear with me. This is not something you'll necessarily see overnight, but the more that you practice, the more that you instill, the more that you communicate that nonconformances is a tool that you use to drive positive transformational change within an organization. And the more that they see it, things do start to change. On that note, some essential key takeaways for you. So turning failures into fuel for success. You want to be able to embrace the opportunity. Nonconformances are inevitable. As long as you have an organization, you will have nonconformances, but remember, they are manageable. They are a natural part of any process. Nonconformances provide valuable insights for improvement. We get it. We don't like nonconformances, but they're tools that you can use. They are a proactive approach that can lead to significant benefits, including cost savings and increased profitability. Remember, data is your friend. So the more people you get writing those nonconformances, and the more you have, and you encourage individuals that you see a nonconformance, write it down, document it. You need that data. It's your friend. It's your best friend. It's going to be your ally. And remember, a culture of learning is essential. So what are your key takeaways after you've addressed those nonconformances? On that note, Cindy, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sabrina. That was a great session.
Awesome.
So that was like a whole new ball game that we went into today. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So everyone, thank you for attending today. We really appreciate you being here. You can see there's our YouTube channel. You can scan that, or you can find us at SGS North America. We have this webinar will be available at that YouTube channel. We have tons of content on there. So I really encourage you to, don't doom scroll, but you should spend some time. There's a lot of great resources for you. And as we mentioned, we offer training courses through SGS Academy. You can see that these are the ISO 9001 training course options. We have ISO 14,001, 45,000, just all the food safety standards, InfoSec, medical device. So that website is it on here? No. Well, the website, let's see. You can search SGS Academy. And the website is learning.sgs.com. And there's our contact information. If you have any questions or comments, if you'd like to reach out to us anytime, please feel free to do so. There's our main website, and our social media presence is also vast. So we'd like to interact with you guys online. And you're going to be sent a survey when we conclude. There's going to be a screen. So please participate in the survey. If you'd like somebody from SGS to reach out and discuss any of the content from today or any of our other services, just let us know in that survey, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And I'm sure you're on our mailing list because you maybe found this, but we will share some future webinars that we have planned. I think we're doing one like every couple of months, Sabrina. I can't remember the full schedule. Yeah, so
we've got
Sabrina's
another one.
Is it April?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We got another one scheduled in April. I'm really looking forward to that one too. Yeah. I'm looking forward to all the ones that we have scheduled for this year.
Yeah, absolutely. But stay tuned for information about upcoming webinars with new topics. And Sabrina's going to be our speaker all year, and I will be here to host the sessions. Thank you guys for your time. We are at the top of the hour. You get 1 minute back. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you again for attending our session.